Hello, welcome back. This is part two of resonance. There's one thing that I failed to mention in the previous video, part one, is the nitrite ion, exactly right here. I forgot to show you the hybrid, but let's get down to it. So basically, we have the electron right here. They're moving on. Let me make this a little smaller. They're moving on to this bond, which is forcing this double bond right here, or this bond to collapse and go to this oxygen, right? Because the reason it did that is because nitrogen, if we were to keep those two double bonds, would be too much for the nitrogen. It would be too many bonds. That's breaking the odd-sect rule, and that's a big no-no, right? So the hybrid of this would look like this, of nitrite ion would look like this, right? And we have -1/2 is because the overall, or the net charge of nitrite ion, is -1. So there's the two oxygens are taking place in this resonance, right? So it's two atoms. So it's -1 divided by 2. Same way we had for carbonate, which was -2/3, because there was three atoms that was taking place or a part in that whole structure with the resonance, right? Now I did talk a little bit about major and minor resonance contributor, right? And we talked about this one right here. Actually, let me go. Where are you? I think I missed it actually. Let's go all the way up to the top. Yep, there it is. There it is. Yep, there it is. So yes, so this one I was talking about how, because this cation is in this secondary position, it is more stable. So this whole thing right here is the major resonance contributor, and this one is a primary cation, right? So it wouldn't be the major contributor. So this one would be actually be the minor. B would be the minor resonance contributor, while A would be the major, right, resonance contributor. And what it is, major resonance contributor is the structure that is the most stable, aka the lowest energy, right? So let's actually do a little more practice on this one. Actually, I already pre-drawn it. Let's do this one right here. There's one thing too that we can look to see or be able to tell which one is the major or minor resonance contributor. Minor being the one most energy. We don't really want that. With this structure right here, we have nitrogen having a double or not a double bond, but a lone pair, right? We know how that lone pair is going to come down, right, and form that double bond here, right, and which will force that pi bond to collapse and go to that carbon, right? So we're forming this one, right? Right. So we're getting this one right here, this structure right here, right? But we're noticing that there's a charge separation, right? So there's a minus here on this carbon, and there's a positive here on this nitrogen. We're able to tell that there's a positive on nitrogen if we do the formal charge, which is highlighted in another video, in a previous video. So please check that out. So there's a charge separation with this one. So we know that the major resonance contributor would be this one. What it is basically not all resonance contribute equally to the hybrid. We learned this in this structure right here. Whereas in carbonate, they all did, right? Because they all looked the same. They all had, the same. There was no charge separation, in which later we'll learn that there was no missing octet. So they all contributed in lead to that hybrid. So they all had their parts. With this one right here, acetone, right? If we were to do the resonance with this one, right, we know that this bond would come to the oxygen, right, which would leave the carbon vulnerable, and the formal charge of carbon in this one is actually positive. And the formal charge we learned in the previous video was valence electrons minus bonds plus dots, right? So check that out in another video, okay? So yes, so basically we have a positive on that carbon, right? So there's a charge separation right? There's a minus here and a positive here. Not only that, if we look closely, carbon has three bonds, and it would really like four. So it's missing an octet, right? It doesn't have eight valence electrons, in its outer shell. So there's not only that there's a charge separation. I'm just going to put CS, a charge separation, but there's a missing octet memo, right? In this one. So this would lead to the hybrid, or it looks more closely to the hybrid. So this one would be the major resonance contributor, right? Right. So yes, so we have to look at the overall structure and be able to tell. Please look at part one. It was crucial in understanding this part. So thank you so much.